Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I'm here with Cathy Thorpe from Nurse Next Door, CEO of Nurse Next Door. So we are going to be here today to talk about marketing. So welcome, Cathy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great for us to have you here today. So let's just get started and just talk about, like, who are you? Where are you from?
Sure.
How did you get into being the CEO of Nurse Next Door?
Yeah, it's funny. I get Well, the first question I usually get is, "Am I a nurse?" And the answer is no. So I'm from Edmonton, Alberta, originally, and
very glamorous.
yeah, I actually started my career in retail. I was many years ago. I started selling jeans at a local store in West Edmonton Mall, and really fell in love with retail, the concepts of customer service, merchandising, selling, all of those pieces that you kind of fall in love with and it doesn't get out of your skin. And then I found myself over at the Gap, and I was going to university at the time, and they had asked me, "Do you want to go into the management development program?" And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I loved being in retail and so many aspects of it, so I thought I'd try it out. And so I got my degree and set off on being an assistant manager at the Gap, and went through various roles. Found myself living over in Germany, running the German organization there for about 3 years.
The German organization of the Gap.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
great.
And then I moved back to Canada and ran.
Do you speak German?
I didn't. I didn't know any German at the time, but ended up learning it and speaking it.
Wow.
I can't say conversational German.
Sure.
How's that? Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it helps to have met my husband there, and he came back with me. So, I had a little support and help in learning the language.
Yeah.
But anyway, we came back to Canada, and I ran Gap Canada, Gap and Gap Kids in Canada for about 4 years. And then left, and we started having kids and said we love the West Coast. We wanted to move back, and so after 15 years, left the Gap, came out to BC, and joined Please Mom. It's a Canadian retail clothing kids store.
Yeah.
And I was president there for about 3 years.
Wow.
And then I decided to go into consulting. I became very interested in working with private companies with my corporate learnings and just all of the things I had experienced and learned being at the Gap for those 15 years. How can I apply that and support private companies?
Yeah.
So I did that for a few years, and it was actually during that time that I became I became a daughter for Nurse Next Door. My parents, my mom was going through a very serious operation out in Edmonton, and I ended up flying out to be there, support them, and I was sitting in the waiting room with my dad. My mom was having her operation, and I thought, you know what, I don't know what I'm going to do. I need to go back to Vancouver. I had my husband, my kids there, my job there, and I don't know if my mom's going to be able to care for my dad's going to be able to care for my mom.
Yeah.
So I looked beside me, and there's this pink pamphlet. I put it in my bag. I knew Nurse Next Door. It was out here in Vancouver, saw the cars. And anyway, found our way to calling up the franchise partner and coming, using Nurse Next Door for about 3 weeks from my mom, and then just really became interested in the concept of home care and just really what the company did. And then as a family, we actually moved back to Germany. My husband had the opportunity to go back and work for Apple for a couple of years. And during that time, I got a call from one of the founders, and he said, "Listen, we're looking for a president. Would you be interested in the role?" And we moved back as a family, and I've been there ever since, and it's been 6 years, and just awesome. Yeah.
So you moved back to Vancouver 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. So you mentioned something that you kind of just skipped over quickly there. You became a daughter of Nurse Next Door.
Okay, I became the daughter. We often talk, like, are we speaking to the client, the senior, or are we speaking to the daughter? Right. And we speak to the daughter because it's generally the daughter that's going to call us up, looking into care for their mom or their dad. Yeah. And everyone's always like, well, there are sons too. Absolutely. But generally speaking, it's the daughter or the daughter-in-law that ends up with that role.
I'm glad you mentioned that because my mom has 4 sons. So daughter-in-law,
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So okay. So that's great. So the target from a demographic perspective is female.
Yes.
The daughter of a elderly person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
What else do you know about them?
They're generally, well, we used to think they were in their 40s, and we're starting to learn that it starts at like 25. So
Really?
25, 45, yeah.
Because they have elderly parents?
Yeah, and they just end up with that role. And sometimes, we've moved from, when I first started with the company, we saw a lot more urgent calls.
Oh, yeah.
So my mom or dad needs immediate care.
Like tomorrow?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or even tonight.
Wow.
Whereas now it's like, you know what, I'm calling because, my mom or dad, they want to stay at home, but they're starting to need that, little bit of care.
Yeah.
Maybe you come in and help them with daily tasks
Yeah.
at the beginning. And, we always say we start with 3 hours, 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And that's not someone who's in their 80s.
Right.
Right? It's
Yeah.
often someone earlier.
Okay.
So we're just on the continuum of aging. We're just getting into the home earlier.
Right. So if I understand Nurse Next Door correctly, it's like I've got, parents who are aging, and I'm not sure that they're going to be able to take care of each other, or maybe they're on their own, but they want to stay home instead of going to an old folks home, or is that what we call them? Old folks homes?
Long-term care facilities.
Long-term care
Yeah,
facilities.
that is when someone thinks about aging and what am I going to do when I get older, generally speaking, their first thought is, I'm going to go into a home.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave my home,
Yeah.
which is the last thing I want to do,
Right.
and look at being supported somewhere else.
Yeah.
And really, home care it used to be the second thing that people thought of, and it's becoming more and more the first thing that people think of.
Right.
Because no one wants to leave their home. There's
Yeah.
so much, when you read up on it, it's actually, people would rather die than leave their home. And that's how, like going into a long-term care facility is a really big deal for
Yeah.
seniors, and something that I think that we take very lightly. And really, we give them that opportunity to look at aging differently. And,
Yeah.
we really focus on, we call it a happier aging. And what that is for us is that we don't just want to take care of the physical needs. So everyone can go into a home and say, you know what, my mom or dad needs a bath, or my mom or
Yeah.
dad needs someone to make a meal for them. We just want them to have an experience. It's
Yeah.
like, what did you used to love doing that you don't do anymore?
Yeah.
And how can we bring that into the experience of being a client with Nurse Next Door? And an example would be, a client used to love going to Italy. Okay, so the caregiver, they're going to make them a meal, but it's going to be an Italian meal. And they're
wow,
going to have
okay.
Italian music. And just to bring that experience back and those memories back, and just really support that person in a whole way, as opposed to just looking at the physical requirements.
So these care workers are not just doing medical things. They're also cooking?
They're doing everything.
Cleaning?
It's not. Yes, we do everything. We do anything that supports someone to be able to stay at home from beginning with that 3 by 3 hours, 3 times a week, all
Yeah.
the way to end of life.
Oh, wow.
So, there's just all of those different pieces in between that
Yeah.
you need support with. And, it might even be that it's 3 hours, 3 times a week for a long time, and then you have a serious operation and you need 24/7 support, and then
Yeah.
you go back to 3 by 3. And,
Okay.
what are the different phases that you need to be
Yeah.
able to support yourself staying at home?
So who's your competition?
Yeah, there's other franchise. We're a franchise system,
Uh-huh.
so we have franchises across North America. We started here in Vancouver 20 years ago, and we have 200 locations now throughout Canada and the U.S. And actually, we just started in Australia last year. So the question was,
Who's your competition?
So yeah, in Canada, well, actually, it's in North America. We have a lot of other franchise systems. We also have a lot of independent nurses who start a business, and that's very much out there. It's becoming
Yeah.
less and less, but we really do see it. We also see, so we've got that direct competition of someone going into the home. We also have, the long-term care facilities and those types of things.
Yeah.
It's all those things that people are looking at in
Yeah.
terms of how they're deciding they want to age and need the
Yeah.
support.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. So when we look at your business, Nurse Next Door, so your local company started here in Vancouver, do you have corporate, like a corporate store as well?
Yes,
or
we
is
do.
everything franchised?
Yeah, no, we have a corporate location, which is really where we test everything.
Okay.
So we come up with new ideas and thoughts, and we say, okay, let's go and test it and see if it works. And if it works, we apply it to the whole franchise system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just before we started the interview, we were just briefly chatting about, what will the students know about Nurse Next Door? And you said they'll probably recognize the cars. So let's talk about branding for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I guess first what I want to understand from you, like when someone says branding, like what does that mean to you? How do you, not necessarily define it, but how would you express that?
Yeah. So, I mean, when I think of Nurse Next Door and the branding, I definitely think of the colors, the brand colors. We picked pink and yellow. In a very nascent blue gray industry.
Yeah.
We definitely stand out. When you look at our brand compared to the competition, it's completely different, and it feels and looks completely different. And
Right.
we always knew that we wanted to be very disruptive in this industry. It's an industry that is very slow to change. It moves not as fast as other industries, and that's really part of our competitive advantage.
Right.
So really, how does that pink and yellow stand out from the competition? So there's that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And then it's really, how do we create value? And what's the brand around that? And, we do things like, we have a scheduling center here in Vancouver. So we schedule, we centralize all of the scheduling for all of the partners across North America. That allows us to have 24/7 access to a live person.
Yeah.
That allows the quality, that allows us to know what's happening with our brand. So really making sure that we understand, what are the clients saying about our brand? What are the caregivers saying about our brand? So I think it's as much about the colors, the look and the feel, as it is about the value behind the brand. And how do you get that, how can you be a premium brand in this industry, in any industry?
Right.
And, we spend a lot of time focused on that and really understand who that brand is and what we can always do to make sure that that's as strong as it can be in every franchise. Because if you don't have that, you don't have a brand.
Yeah. So how much does the personal touch of like the nurse that goes to the house, how much does the personal touch of the call center employee affect your brand?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going to go back to happier aging, and it's that whole concept of, we're going to take our time with you. Like when you think about it, this industry is all about, they actually look at 15-minute increments.
Right.
So you might go in and help a client, and you might have 15 minutes to do it.
Right. Wow.
We start at 3 hours, 3 times a week.
Oh, I see.
So just the experience of building that relationship and building that trust with the client is really where they start to see the value of what Nurse Next Door can bring compared to the competition. Yeah.
So, like you're saying a lot of like really important things here, which I think is excellent. So the relational aspect of being really important. If the client doesn't get along, I guess, with the nurse, if there isn't that relationship there's no longevity for your business. There just becomes kind of this high turnover in them wanting to deal with someone else or go for a different company. So that relationship is really important, I guess.
Yeah, it's the perfect match, right? So you need to understand who that client is and also who that caregiver is and be able to match them accordingly. And when you can do that, absolutely, you build that trust and that relationship.
Okay. So you talked about kind of, you guys are pink and yellow from a branding, physical branding perspective. The industry is kind of gray and blue. So to me, it sounds fresh and summery and fun, and maybe youthful and feminine. Are those words that I've kind of described what I imagine your branding to be just by its colors accurate? Is that what you're going for? Is that allowing you to stand out?
Yeah, it's interesting to use the word feminine because it was actually, the company was founded by 2 men in their 20s.
Okay, yeah.
It's so interesting because you hear the stories of, it's the small little things that make a difference to someone's life. And here, a story that it sits with me is there was a man an older man, he kept going to the park every day and he's lonely. And he saw all of these people walking around talking to each other, and he didn't know how to go and start the conversation.
Yeah.
So we called Nurse Next Door. We came in, and the caregiver started going for walks with him. And he said, "Can you just help me meet people?"
Oh, wow.
And so they would go, and she would start talking to people. And pretty soon, what started as 3 hours, 3 times a week, so it was like, "Oh, can you come in 2 extra days?" And, then all of a sudden it's every day. And that's a big difference to someone's life.
Yeah.
When you think it's a small little thing.
Yeah.
Another story is a caregiver, they were doing a caring consult. Before we start working with a client, we go into the home, we talk to them, we figure out what their needs and what is that care plan? What are we working with? And so they were talking to this client, and she's like, "Oh, I get it. You mean I'm actually going to be able to go shopping again? Oh my gosh. Oh, I can actually go and meet my friends for lunch again."
Right.
And that's the difference that home care can make. And that's not really what you're thinking about. You're thinking about, well, my mom's safe, or this is taken care of physically.
Yeah.
But it's those little things that make a true difference to someone's life.
I mean, that's true. Like when I think about the business model, I'm thinking they make sure my parents take their pills,
right?
That they get bathed. Like
that's the easy part.
Fully where
Everyone
my mind goes.
can do that, right? It's that whole experience of bringing back what they used to love doing that they don't do anymore. That really provides happier aging.
You're creating possibilities for people.
You are, and with that, you can age happily. And isn't that the point? And I would say, as a society, we're not there yet in understanding how we can support seniors to be able to do that.
Right. Yeah, I used to work in the luxury hotel business in the Four Seasons, and that's kind of what we did. We just made opportunities for people. We just created experiences and possibilities, unlimited. They cost money, but we could do anything.
Right.
And that is what sets a luxury experience apart from a upscale or mid-range experience.
Yeah. And listen, we're not for everyone, and we're not trying to be, and we know that some people are going to look at price, and those are the ones that should go to the competition. And but what we have is going to be that experience.
So you're a premium product in your market.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
So if we look at your product line, and maybe the depth of your product line, so you kind of said 3 hours, 3 times a week is maybe the entry level.
Yes.
And are there like packages someone can buy, or how do you kind of structure what I'm actually going to be purchasing?
Yeah, we actually could do more with packages, I think. I think it's an opportunity for us. But really, it's how do we look at the care plan, and then we build the hours according to that.
So a care plan meaning what they want?
Well, we go into the home. It's usually done by a nurse.
Yep.
So they're looking at everything and saying, you know what, I think this would be best for mom or dad. We would start with this many hours, this many days a week. And then you'd build it from there.
Yeah.
And that's really where we start with figuring out what the packages are.
So it's customized.
Yeah,
Everything's
exactly.
customized.
Yeah.
So at this point, you don't have a packaged product.
We don't. But I think, when take, for example, what we're seeing more and more of is I need an overnight solution for my mom or dad.
Right.
So I think we can start to really look and say, what are those enhanced packages that you could put together to really be taking care of those trends in home care.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And so when you say overnight care, you're talking they go to bed, you help them in their bed, help them go pee in the middle of the night, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and quite frankly, making sure they stay in bed.
Oh, okay.
We're often the solution for not just the client, but also the person looking after the client.
The piece
So if someone has dementia,
right,
and they have a tendency to be getting out of bed during the night, can you sleep well? But if you have someone coming in to be able to look after and support that person, then you have peace of mind, and you can get that sleep that you need to be able to care for that person the next day.
Yeah.
So it's just all of those little things that you're not thinking about in terms of what support people need to be able to stay at home.
How has technology impacted your business model?
Yeah. I would say not enough. I think that we have an opportunity, and I think we see it more and more, just the whole conversation around preventative medicine. And how does technology start to come more into the home to be able to support people to stay at home? And, I really believe that Nurse Next Door, I put the home in the middle of the circle.
Okay.
And I see us as one bubble of the circle. And I see all of those other relationships and technology being one of them that's going to help people stay at home.
Right.
Yeah.
So COVID has been a big thing that's been happening around the world. And when I hear the news, I often hear outbreak in long-term care facility.
Yeah.
That message has been continually pounded into our brains. And so I don't think that people are going to want to send their parents to long-term care facilities in the future, because that is probably something we're going to continually think about. So how has it impacted your business today, and how do you see that impacting your business for the future?
Yeah. So today you've got the kids that have parents in the facilities that want to get them out.
Right.
You have the kids thinking about what they're going to do with their parents, and they were thinking about long-term care, and it's no longer an option. So now they're looking into home care.
Yeah.
And then, this is a story. We had a call. It came into our intakes line here in Vancouver, and it was actually a client. She was living in a long-term care facility, and she called us up and she said, "Can you help me? I just need to get out of here."
Yeah.
So you've also got the clients that want to look at different options,
like
right?
escaping a prison.
Yeah, it's quite devastating, and I think it's something that I don't look, though. It's not the facility that's the problem. It's how we look at aging.
Right.
Right? Like, aging is not about 15-minute increments.
Yeah.
It's just not. And that's how we as a society look at it.
Right.
And how do we really say, no, let's step back and figure out how people should age, and can they do it happily, and can they do it the right way? And I think when we start to get into that conversation, I don't think it actually, I think long-term care facilities can start to figure out solutions also, as well as home care. I think the two can actually start working together a lot more.
Yeah, that's great. There's a lot of things I love what you talked about, the experience. I love your slogan. I think your color description is great. Just talking about the relational aspect of this. And also, it seems like you're humanizing care. Like when you talk about it's not in 15-minute increments, like that is so sterile sounding, but you're talking about like building relationships and really giving people not only dignity, but also allowing them to, enjoy their life and have opportunities as they get older.
Yeah. And giving them the opportunity to make decisions.
Right.
I think there's so many aspects of, we're going to tell someone how long that bath should be. We're going to tell someone when they get a bath.
Right.
Versus, you know what? My mom or dad deserves to be able to be in choice and to be able to say what's going to happen and still feel that control in their life.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have the right to take that away.
Right.
And I think that when you look at how we look at aging, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's the whole conversation.
Yeah.
And that to me is, if we start to figure it out from that standpoint, we will make the right decisions.
Yeah, that's great. Excellent. I really appreciate you coming down here and speaking with us today. It's been excellent. I've learned a lot about Nurse Next Door. I learned a lot about branding and pricing. That's great. Thanks so much for being with us. Cathy Thorpe with us from Nurse Next Door. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.